Welcome to Parent Coaches Unleashed with Carrie and Jessica, where no topics are taboo or off limits. Join us as we let loose and discuss the real, raw feelings about parenting.
In each episode, we will bring you heartfelt discussions, real-life stories, and special guests that will both entertain you and encourage community so no one feels alone in their parenting journey.
Thanks so much for listening. Now let's start the show.
Hi, everybody. It's Jessica. I'm here with Carrie. And today we have a lot to talk about because we are talking about talking.
It's like our favorite subject. So this is how we got into the business of podcasting because all we like to do is talk. So all you parents out there that love to talk, hopefully you'll like to listen today because we have a lot to say.
Well, when we are actually talking about a conversation with our children, that becomes the most important part of the conversation, listening. So my son, my middle guy, Cody, he had a mentor. He was taking a leadership program, and his mentor, Carrie, the topic was how to be a good listener. And one of the things he said was, you have 2 ears and 1 mouth. You should listen twice as much as you talk.
So is that advice to him as like a kid, or is that advice to us as parents, or is this everyone?
Don't you think it's everyone? I mean, if we just stopped and listened, how much better off would we all be? I mean,
Yeah.
Just our communication skills, I feel like, are so lacking between looking at the phone and not having great communication skills. I think it's something we can all benefit from. But let's talk specifically about how we have a conversation with our kids. And does that change as they grow? So one of our listeners brought up a topic to me the other day. They have a college age daughter, and this mom was expressing her concern over, my daughter doesn't listen to me. She's not taking my suggestions. She's telling me I don't understand. And how do you talk to your adult children?
Yeah, this is a challenging one. I feel it myself. I don't have daughters. I have sons. And, the communication sometimes is just not overflowing because boys in general aren't, gabbard, right? There's like growing up, there was not a lot of detail about, their day-to-day life. And I think as a mom, I craved, details. I wanted information. Like even my husband says, like, you just come up with so many questions, right? When we're talking about something, there's a question and I have a question to the question. So anyway, go back to our listener with the daughter. Yeah, college age daughter.
Just so you know, I get criticized for my questions all the time. So much so that not even my kids, but when we do college tours, my kids and my husband, whoever's with us at the time, they have an over-under for how many questions I'll ask on the tour. So I'm right there with you. But listen, it's information. We're just trying to gather information to make good choices, to make good decisions.
I think it proves that we're listening really well because we're hearing what you say. However, when we're listening, are we processing and forming the next question? Or are we really just listening so intently that we need more?
Right there. That's so important. How are you listening to what your children are saying? Are you listening with the intent of just immediately fixing their problem? Are you listening to just diminish their problems or whatever it is they're sharing with you?
Yeah. So one thing I learned in therapy, which I will share with all of you because it's been super helpful. And for some of you, this might have just come naturally, but it did not to me, was when the child, whatever age they are, even more so the college age, but when they call or they want to talk to you with this problem and all this information and blah, 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 they're gabbing away, I've learned that I'm supposed to say, which has been really helpful, do you just want me to listen? Right? Because my natural instinct, the type of parent that I am or was, as I'm going through this transformation and putting into action everything that I've learned is right to not come, because I hear challenges, I hear problems, my fixer in me just like starts lighting up. Like, I'm ready. I'm ready with all the solutions. But I've learned, thank you to my therapist, that, one of the questions that you asked right away is, and I think, Jessica, you've said it too, like, what do you need from me? Do you just want me to listen?
Yes, and that is how I started. I had to make a shift in changing the way I had a conversation with my kids, and it has become I don't offer advice without asking permission first. I don't make suggestions without asking if they need something from me. I don't try to fix their problems. I don't try to validate or invalidate their feelings. I
Is that
just
hard for you? Like, are
it
you
was.
bubbling up?
But yeah, of course. How could it? I mean, we're natural fixers. Like we who wants their to if we have the answers, who wants to see their kid in pain? No, nobody does. But what are we teaching them? Our goal always is to raise independent, confident humans. And us jumping in to fix everything for them, what are we teaching them? How are we teaching them to problem solve and figure things out on their own? If we're not always going to be there. We'd like
Right.
to think we are,
Yeah.
but the truth of the matter is we're not.
All right. But what happens when you ask the question, like, what do you need from me? Do you just want me to listen? And then they say, no, no, I'm calling you because I need you to help me make this decision. What do you say? What do you do?
I think you and I differ a little bit on this because we've spoken about this in the past, and you would tell them, you tell me what strategies you're thinking about using.
Yeah.
You don't offer them anything. You
Yes.
listen to them
I'm,
talk and try to figure
I
things
listen to
out.
my therapist's directions.
So I would say in that situation, do you want to go through some different scenarios together? Which isn't so much different, but if they're stuck, I might offer a suggestion for them. What do you think about this?
Okay.
What do you think about doing it this way? And then we can walk through the points, like what they think might happen if they chose to do it that way or not. But again, I think the whole your way, my way, I think the whole objective and the whole point in that is putting it on them to make the decision what they want from you.
Right. I know sometimes parents think, well, if they make the decision, it's their choice. If it goes badly, it's on them. But that's like not really what we're trying to communicate or to prove or to have. But we want them to feel confident in their decision making, because when they know that they can make decision and choices, they become a more confident, independent adult. Whether the decisions are good or bad, like, it doesn't matter.
Right or wrong doesn't matter.
Correct.
It's going through the motions and going through the process. It's if you never fail, you'll never learn.
Right. When they ask, though, for advice, and now you're giving some suggestions or advice, but what happens when the kid or young adult teenager starts coming back at you like, no, like, arguing, or like they didn't really want to hear your advice, even though they said they would be open to it, right? You get those that are, no,
Yeah,
no,
or
like,
that's not gonna work, or I don't wanna
right, right. Or everything that you've suggested, there's some deflection or defensive comments back. Then where are you at as the parent? Because, right, I mean, we're trying to right now help parents by sharing this information. So,
I'm gonna
what would a
answer that
parent do?
question, and then I want to step back for a minute.
Yes.
I would say to them, it doesn't seem like what I'm offering you is sitting well with you. So let's backtrack a second. I would try to find out what they're feeling and why they're feeling so negative about what I'm offering. And then I would say, what are some things you're thinking about?
Is it an option to just say, you know what? You've got this, right? I think this conversation should be over. I'm confident you'll figure it out. Like, could that be a solution?
That can absolutely, but again, you know your child, you know how your child's going to react, you know what they're thinking in that moment. Or you might and you might not, but I think it's okay to say, you know what, let's put a pause on this conversation for right now because it doesn't seem like we're on the same page, or I'm not so sure you know where you want me to be in this conversation.
Right.
Not so sure you know what you're needing from me
Okay.
in this moment. And it's okay to check in later, say, how are you doing? Do you want to revisit that conversation? So,
You wanted to backtrack. Yes.
yeah, that's what I wanted to talk about. We're not just learning to talk to our kids for the first time when they go off to college, when they're becoming young adults. Conversations are happening with our children from the time they can talk. I mean, we're practicing the art of conversation with our kids always. What we're talking about specifically here is a conversation surrounding a specific topic. Something I always like to do is ask my kids, hey, are you open to having a conversation right now about what happened before? Asking for permission, not just coming at them, but asking for permission to have a conversation in that moment about something that's on your mind.
Like, would you approach them, like walk into their room and say, hey, is it okay for us to have a conversation right now? Or are you saying that's how you would approach that? Correct?
That's exactly what I would do. I would
Okay.
ask them, listen, there's something that I've been meaning to talk to you about. Is now a good time?
Okay. So not just barging in and plopping down on the bed and just going at it.
Right. 100%. Think about with your friends. I mean, you and I would say to you, hey, is now a good time to talk? Something's on my mind. Same thing with our kids. I have something's on my mind. I'd like to talk to you about it. Is now a good time?
I would say, though, sometimes it's probably really hard when a parent has something that they've been, either they're impulsive about what it is they need to share with their child or get off their chest or find out from the child, right? Sometimes that, inability to control our own emotions about how we feel about something, especially if it's something you just learned some information and you want to go to your child and talk about it because you want to get to the bottom of it. So, right, it's all about the right time and place, controlling our own self and our own emotions before having any sort of conversation, whether it's a simple conversation, about chores or something more powerful about, some bad behavior.
Yes. And if your child says, no, I don't really feel like talking right now, you have to be okay with that.
Okay. What if they never want to, like, what if they never want to talk, right? If the parent who goes in and says, like, is this a good time to talk? No. Can't you see I'm busy? Whatever.
Yes. And absolutely that happens. Then I would say, I know you don't want to talk right now, but I have something to say and I just need you to listen.
Right. So maybe negotiate on when would be a good time to talk, not
Or
I'll
just,
just come
I'm
back.
going to put this out there and say something to you that's been on my mind. And when you've digested it and are ready to give me your thoughts on that, I'm here to listen to you. There's something to keep in mind though, when you're talking to your child, and I know we've said it before, but it's the type of listener you are. I know we've touched on it, but I would avoid saying things like, oh, why are you sad about that? There's no reason to be sad about that. You're negating their feelings. Or something like, oh, yeah, that happened to me when I was a kid. I remember going through that. This isn't about you. It's about what they're going through. And yes, you might have something valuable. You might have an experience that you think relates to them, but let them have their moment. This is about them.
All right. So it's about validating their feelings without making it about us. Like sometimes, like I'll be honest, I thought that if my child was going through something, validating their feelings, but also sharing that I've been there too and know how that feels, right? I'll be honest, I thought that that was helpful because maybe they don't feel alone, but I guess not.
Well, it's not that it's not. I would just, again, it's about them in that moment.
Right.
All you're doing is listening and gathering information. When they're done, you can say, I understand your feelings. I had an experience. Would you like to hear it?
Right.
And if it's a yes, then go for it. But again, you're not doing anything without permission because you don't want to take away from their story. And it's not about you. It's about them. When they're done, sure, you can say, listen, I've had a similar experience. Do you want to hear how I dealt with it? Or do you want to just discuss what you're going through?
Yeah, because a lot of times you don't understand. You have no idea what I'm going through or what it's like now or all that, which is true,
Right. Right.
which is honestly true. We don't
Things are
know.
very different for our children today than
Yes,
they were for us at their age.
we don't know
100%.
what it's like.
But I think the most important thing from this conversation, from our
Our
conversation
conversation.
about conversations is listen, just listen to your child without interjecting, without interrupting, without offering, without fixing. Just listen.
That's a hard one.
It's such a hard one.
That's a hard one.
This goes for every relationship that you have. It's not just about your kids. Think about your relationship with your partner, with your friends. Would you be a better listener? Would you have a better conversation if you actually just stopped and listened to what they were saying without offering? Listen, we all know we all have had conversations with people who we call one-uppers. Everybody has a better story, or the interrupters. Oh, that happened with my kid. I mean,
Yeah.
how does the conversation shift if you truly just listen?
It's actually a much easier way and like a more comfortable place to be as a friend, right? Or a partner, to just be in the listening place, right? Requires a lot more time and energy, I think, to be opening up and sharing and talking. And, so to practice listening is right. You're practicing, different muscle, but you're practicing being present and just being there to show support for someone by taking the time to just sit, listen, hear, validate, right? Like I found it to be a much more comfortable position. And if I had to choose a spot to be in, I'm raising my hand. I'll be the listener.
Yes, I agree with you. I've actually had friends who have said to me, "You're asking me too many questions. I don't have all of the answers. I don't know the answers to these questions."
How did that make you feel?
It makes me feel like I wasn't listening enough.
Okay.
I thought I was asking questions to help them
Yeah.
through what they were going through. But I realized that it comes off as me just trying to check boxes and gather information when it's not about me. It's about them.
Right.
And it's about me pausing and listening.
And, if we mess up, right? If we don't do it right the first time as the friend or the spouse or the partner or as the parent, like it's okay to go back and apologize and say, I'm sorry, and, try to start again. Like, I'm not always good at this, right? That's okay, especially with our kids, to say, I try my best as your mom. I don't always, do the right thing the first time. And so I'm back here to apologize and say, you know what? I saw you were frustrated at the end of our conversation. I'm sorry. And now I'm here to just listen if you want me to.
Carrie, that's a whole nother conversation about the art of an apology.
Yes. Well,
But
we'll
it's
get
so
there.
true. So many people, not parents, but so many people are just can't say, I'm sorry. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. You made a mistake. That's what we want our kids to learn. It's okay to say, you know what? I'm so sorry. I was in that moment. I had a different intention. Can we start over?
This will be a future conversation.
We hope you got something out of our conversation about conversation today. We'll see you next time. Thanks for joining us.
All right. Have a good one. Thank you for listening to this episode of Parent Coaches Unleashed with Carrie and Jessica. Together, we can raise the next generation of independent, capable, and compassionate young adults.
We encourage you to send us an email with questions and feedback to info@parentcoachesunleashed.com. Please remember, you are not alone on this parenting journey.